Hello everyone, you're watching Sightline on MNB World. As tomorrow, December 29th, marks the Independence Day of Mongolia from the Qing Dynasty, we've invited an honored guest, historian, Doctor of Sciences in History, diplomat Dr. Batbayar Tsedendamba to the studio to talk about the history of Mongolia's independence.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. So December 29th marks the Mongolia's independence from the Manchu Qing Dynasty. However, there seems to be a little bit a misunderstanding. Can you tell us the importance of celebrating this day as a state holiday?
The significance of that day is that finally Mongolia got its independence and sovereignty from Manchu Qing Dynasty and established its national state. However, you are right that that day of December 29th of 1911 somehow was overshadowed by another revolution, which was in 1921. But as a historian, I think that we should understand that December 29 is a very important day because Mongolia started its not only national liberation, but its modernization towards a modern country. You know that Mongolia established its first elementary school in 1912, established its parliament, bicameral state Hural, in 1913. And also Mongolia had its first newspaper. Also, we should be aware that Mongolian National Army was established. Mongolian state budget was established, and customs office was established in a border between Russia and Mongolia, and also in a border between China and Mongolia during that time.
Thank you. Okay, so when talking about the National Independence Day, people think about that Mongolia was under the control of China, but actually we were under the control of the Manchu. What I'm going to ask is that how was the life like in Mongolia during this more than 200 years of Manchu rule?
That's a very important question. As you said, Mongolia was under Manchu Qing Dynasty domination around 200 years, starting late of 17th century until 1911. Why this revolution of 1911 came about? You know, in early 20th century, the Manchu Qing Dynasty started to carry out new policies of colonization toward Mongolian land. These new policies of colonization included destruction of old ways of life. It means that they wanted to carry out some reforms in Mongolia, which included farming instead of pastoral nomadism. You know, Mongolia was historically a nomad people. These new policies of Qing Dynasty was made by great resistance from Mongolian people and Mongolian nobles, because they thought that if they allow Chinese farmers come to Mongolia and make farming, they will destroy the nomadic way of life. Also, Mongols were very angry because the Qing Dynasty started to take out some privileges of noble people, high-ranking lamas. They were very much against new policies of Qing Dynasty. So that's why a revolution broke out, which included not only Halkha Mongolia, which is present-day Mongolia, but also Inner Mongolia, Barga, and Uriankhai.
Yes.
These are different parts of the whole Mongolian language territory.
So, unarguably, the most important person that actually influenced the victory of that independence revolution is Bogtang of Mongolia. He is actually the 8th reincarnation of the Tsedendamba, which is the religious leader of Mongolia. So how important was his involvement in the history of the revolution?
You mentioned a very important historical event that the religious leader of Mongolia, the 8th Tsedendamba Hotuktu, which we call also simply Bogda Han, Bogda Gegeng, played a very important role. You know, Mongolia was a deeply religious country. Everyone was devoted religious people. They worshipped the religious leader of Mongolia. So that's why he was a kind of rallying point for all Mongolians. And his role was very enormous in making this national revolution victorious. But of course, we also should mention that some high-ranking nobles like Chinwan Hantorch, Sainoyan Han, Namnon Sureng, these are leaders of 4 IMACs of Mongolia at that time. They played also a very important part in that revolution. High-ranking lamas like Dalam Tserinchimit, they played also a very important role in the revolution. So I must tell that 8th Tsedendamba Hotuktu, he was a Tibetan person.
Yeah.
He was brought to Mongolia at his young age of
5.
to become 8th Tsedendamba Hotuktu. It's in Buddhist hierarchy, maybe the 3rd important leader. The first one is Dalai Lama, then Banchen Bogd, then 3rd one is Tsedendamba Hotuktu. So when the revolution of 1911 broke out, he had enormous influence throughout all Mongol lands, not only Halkha Mongolia, but also in Inner Mongolia, in Barga, and Uriankhai. So that's why it's very significant revolution.
But the other countries did not approve of Mongolia's independence. And actually, one of the 2 goals here, the most important goals, was to have Mongolian independence to be accepted overseas. And the other one was to unify all Mongolians. But we could not unify Inner Mongolia with Halkha Mongolia. So was 1911 actually a truly independence year?
Yeah, as you mentioned, that international status of Mongolia at that time was very ambiguous, because Mongolia was traditionally for 200 years a part of Manchu Qing Dynasty. So at that time, a revolution occurred also in China. They call it Shanghai Revolution. Same time is our revolution in Mongolia. So China also destroyed old Qing Dynasty, and it became a Republic of China.
Yes.
In Mongolia, we also declared our independence. But as you said, the international status of Mongolia was not recognized by other great powers.
Yeah.
Our main partner was Tsarist Russia. Russia helped Mongolian leaders. Tsarist Russia was a very important country which helped to make this revolution successful. But Russia was bound by secret treaties with Japan. Russia-Japanese Treaty of 1907, it made Mongolia was divided into 2 parts.
After
northern part of Mongolia and southern part of Mongolia. In northern part of Mongolia was made the sphere of influence of Tsarist Russia. So that's why, you know, Russia didn't want Mongolia's full independence.
Yeah.
Russia wanted Mongolia become somehow independent from China, but not fully independent country. So that's why Russia and Republic of China, they concluded agreement.
That was in 1915?
It was in 1913. And by this agreement between Russia and China, they made Mongolia, Northern Mongolia, the Halkha Mongolia, is an autonomous state and dependent on
From China. So was it a step back in the history of Mongolia's independence?
Yes, status of Mongolian autonomy was decided, you are right, in the conference in the town of Kyakhta in 1915. It was a 1 year long conference between three parties, Tsarist Russia, Halkha Mongolia,
And
the Republic of China. So this Kyakhta conference produced results that the suzerainty will be exercised by Republic of China over Halkha Mongolian territory. But internal administration in some foreign affairs will be conducted independently by Mongolia.
Mongolia became an autonomous country in 1915, but actually the Republic of China demolished that autonomy in 4 years later, right?
Yes. But Mongolia was very determined to become independent modern state. So Mongolia reached out to other great powers like United States, Great Britain, Japan. Mongolia sought their protection to become a fully independent country. So in 1914, a Japanese official whose name was Kodama, he came to Nisilhure, capital of our Mongolian. And Mongolian high-ranking officials tried to negotiate some deal with Japan. So to seek trade relations with Japan and also some kind of official contacts with Japanese government. And also the young Mongolian government sent diplomatic couriers to Beijing, to Harbin, to reach out consulates of United States, Great Britain, and some other great powers to seek the protection and establish some official and trade relations.
So we had got this big ambition, so we sent out our diplomatic notes to 6 countries.
Yes,
but
9 countries. 9.
But the 3 were not in Harbin.
Yes.
So did we ever get a reply from those countries?
Actually, in 1911, in 1912, we sent diplomatic notes to embassies of 9 countries which resided in Harbin. But you are right that 6 embassies received our diplomatic note. 3 embassies were not in Harbin. That's why we reached out 6 countries. Even today we have these official notes, originals of these official notes in Japanese archive of Foreign Ministry and archive of France. So official notes we have. Also, Mongolia sent 2 delegations. First one headed by Minister of Foreign Affairs Chinwa Handorj in late 1912, early 1913 to Russia, to St. Petersburg. And also the second delegation was headed by Sainayohan Namunsurung, who was actually Prime Minister of Mongolia.
Prime Minister, wow.
Yeah. So these 2 delegations visited Russian capital and met all or high-ranking Russian officials. But as I said, Russia was restrained by a secret treaty with Japan, and also Russia was restrained by its relations with the Republic of China. So that's why Russia didn't want to help Mongolia become fully independent. So they wanted to make Mongolia as a kind of semi-independent or autonomous state.
Delegations that were sent to Russia, they also tried to contact with other embassies in Russia, right? But they were also refused to receive the delegations, Mongolian delegations.
Yes, you must understand that these delegations tried to reach out embassies of foreign countries like Germany, France, UK, in St. Petersburg. Only German ambassador met the Mongolian delegation. So all other ambassadors, they made some excuses. They were ill or something like that. They didn't want to meet Mongolia because they thought that Mongolia is still a part of this big China, still a part of Republic of China, and they didn't want to negotiate with Mongolian delegation. But these independent steps, diplomatic steps by Mongolian government were very significant. During that period from 1911 until 1919, so during 8 years, they used every occasion, every chance to reach out great powers that, to establish trade contacts, official contacts, and to ask the recognition of sovereign Mongolian state.
And Mongolia also was trying to get loans from other countries, but it got interrupted. Am I right?
Yes, the Mongolian delegation headed by Sainayohan Namnasuren, they met some German finance people and French finance people in Russia. Also, they negotiated not only loans from German banks and French banks, also they wanted to get some weaponry from Germany. Because at that time, in 1913, the war broke out between Mongolian National Army and the Republic of China. So Mongolians wanted to liberate Inner Mongolia from the domination of Republic of China. So the young Mongolian government sent its national army to Inner Mongolia. During that war campaign, the Mongolian National Army liberated 2/3 of Inner Mongolia. And it was very near its goal to unify Inner Mongolia. But Tsarist Russia
Stopped it.
Didn't want to help Mongolia to liberate Inner Mongolia, and Tsarist Russia and Republic of China, they negotiated a deal. And by that agreement, Mongolia had to withdraw its army from Inner Mongolia and to receive a loan from Russia, and as I said, also financial advisor from Russia, and some the army specialists from Russia came to Mongolia to help train Mongolian National Army.
Okay, thank you. So unfortunately, our time is coming to an end. So if you have got your final message, then what would you like to say?
Yes, I want to say that national evolution of 1911, 1912 is a very significant event in Mongolian modern history. As I said, it not only started national liberation, national freedom, also it started Mongolian modernization. So Mongolia started its first reform to become a modern sovereign nation state in 1911. So that's why we should celebrate this December 29th as a start of independent modern Mongolian state.
Thank you very much.